Uh, all right, so let's take up the story, and here we go. So, as we said, the general, the general came in and he saw there were women traveling and gave him over to take one of them away. And the woman that was taken away was the wife of the poor person. And we said that when the general came and they passed off the road, they went off the road. This is when the general saw there were women and he took them. There's there's a very important lesson to be learned from that particular Indian. Um, it's very common. It's very common for us, some people more than others, that when we lose focus, we tend to get depressed. The probably the most effective antidote for depression. I'm not talking about clinical chemical imbalance. I'm talking about life depression kind of thing. Is movement, and if if you have a family member or somebody that that's depressed, it won't do you any good to look him or her in the eye and say, cheer up, because they won't. In fact, if anything, they'll become more depressed. Not only are they depressed, but now you also tell them, you should not be depressed. You should be happy. Well, thank you very much. I have two reasons to be depressed. But if you want to get somebody out of their depression, the first thing to do is take them by the hand and take them out. Take them out. You go for a walk, you go for this, you go for that, but move. That's the first thing. A second thing is that when people are working and are going through tough times, and who doesn't go through tough times, and the goal is ambiguous, is fuzzy, it's not clear. When people feel that there is no rhyme or reason to why they're going through whatever they're going through, the result is usually depression. Interestingly enough, obviously, when people are focused on something that is that they see the goal as something which is worthwhile, even if they're actually going through a very tough time pursuing it, they will be anything but depressed. If an alien came from outer space and you took him to a gym and you showed him a guy that is pushing, lifting weights and sweating to the point that you think the guy is going to have kidney failure. And so that alien will be absolutely convinced that this guy is being tortured and there's somebody probably from behind that it is pointing a gun at this guy and orders him to be, to do whatever he's doing. Imagine how surprised this alien is going to be when he'll find that not only nobody is forcing this guy to do it, this guy's actually paying for the privilege, of pumping those weights and sweating himself, sweating himself dry. Why? Because the guy is, and not only this, when a person is working towards a goal, the harder the journey is, the more satisfying it is. This obviously they still have them today. They have all over the world. They have these special units. If it's Navy SEALs, the Green Berets, or Sayeret Matkal, or whatever it is. And usually in order to, when they graduate, in order to get their beret, they have to go through an insane march, carrying tremendous amount of weight on them. And when you're dealing with special commando units, they also have to find their way around, navigate their way around, and evade guards that are standing on their way, trying to prevent them from getting to where they need to get. And those guards are usually their commanders. In other words, these are guys who really know how to guard. And it is extremely, extremely hard. But very, very few people, that get to that stage, maybe they get captured by the guards or whatever, but very few of them say in the middle, something, forget about it. It's not for me. I'm not interested. I'm going home. Because the hardship that they go through in order, the goal that they're going for, to be a member of this elite unit or whatever it is that they have in their mind, makes the arduous work that they have to put in that much sweeter. Now, it doesn't necessarily even have to be a goal that is worth anything. As long as there's passion in it, you can decide that you are going to collect all the different cans of beer that are canned in the world. We're not talking about getting together 1,000 Heineken cans, but we're talking about getting every can of every different beer in the world. You're going to have the world's most elaborate. It doesn't matter if it's cans of beer or you're making a collection of modern art or whatever it is that you said. It doesn't matter, if the goal makes a difference or doesn't make a difference. As long as you're passionate about it, one thing is for sure, you're not going to be depressed. We are, however, on a quest that is really the only one that makes any difference whatsoever. A neighbor of mine now passed away over Shabbos, and it's sort of like, I'm not even sure why this more than anything else. It's just like he used to live next to me, and he moved away, whatever it is. I knew the guy, hello. There was There wasn't really real connection between us. But the point is that it sort of knocked in the idea we are in a very important quest, the only quest that matters at all. And because of that, we are faced with tremendous obstacles. Rabbeinu says that, the more precious the goal, the higher the obstacles. Now, the obstacles, Rabbeinu says, mean absolutely nothing. What they really are is only a measuring stick of how much do you want the goal. And Rabbeinu explains that you have the person who has the motivation. You have the motivation itself, and you have the object that is being coveted. And it says that the more precious the coveted item or goal is, the higher are the obstacles. And the only way to get over these obstacles is to increase your motivation to the point that the motivation outweigh the obstacles. Then not only do the obstacle collapse, but the obstacles themselves become a stepping stone towards that thing that you are coveting, that you are looking for. So Rabbeinu is telling us that with a tremendous insight, he says, listen, when something is very difficult for you, the degree of difficulty that you are facing is actually the simon of how precious the thing that you're after is. So you understand how motivated you need to be. Because if you see that, motivation, I'm motivated, basically, I want it, but davening in the morning, yeah, of course I want to daven in the morning. Of course I want to daven with kavana, the whole thing. But what is the motivation, and how high is the obstacle? So what happens is that when we are finding ourselves in a situation that we realize that our motivation is not enough to overcome the obstacle. Let's call a spade a spade. We realize that. And not only this, but our motivation for motivation is not who knows what. That can lead, many times, that leads to depression. When that leads to what you call social depression, I'm talking about chemical depression. When that leads to depression, people use, they use various means to distract themselves from the fact that they're depressed. I mean, one of the most amazing, astounding facts is that, people amuse themselves when they're depressed. They're going to watch horror movies. How about that? It's like, all right. They go to see movies about people killing people, about, assassins, and about who knows what, about aliens and monsters and this and that, because it's exciting, because it makes them forget, their own problems, their own sense of inadequacy. many times, many times, it is various addictions of sorts. It doesn't necessarily have to be, something that your life becomes unmanageable, but it can be substances, it can be immoral behaviors, it can be, various certain. It can be sleeping a lot. It could also be that. But the point is that the one thing that we don't realize is that whenever it is that we stray towards one of those entertainment tools that we use, it can be a movie, it could be a fantasy, it could be, a few shots of rye or whatever it is might be. That gives the Sitra Achra a foothold in us. When the women went away from the derech, Rabbeinu says, we mentioned it last time, derech is a euphemism for morality. It says derech isha min ha'efes. That when you are like lowering the bar, I'm just doing it for a few minutes, just to pick myself up. It's like everybody knows that particular taiva is the universal antidepressant. But the point is that enables the general, that's the samach mem, to grab the woman, to grab the emunah. So let's just get back to the story, and so we can talk about it some more. Basically, in other words, the point that I was trying to make is that there are no free lunches. There is no way for us to take a break without paying for that break. You might say that you can't. You might say that maybe you really can't. Okay, but everything comes with a price, especially these kind of leeways that we're giving ourselves in thoughts and deeds and whatever it is, in order to forget the fact that we are not as motivated as we need to be in our quest for nitzchias. That they say that Uri Zohar's household was very, very loud. And Uri was a loud guy. And he would speak loudly, and the children would speak loudly, and his wife would tell him, speak, lower your voice. So he would tell her, why are you telling me? Why are you not telling them? So she said, because they don't pay 500 shekels each time that they raise their voice. In other words, he was so motivated to work on himself that whenever he raised his voice, he would pay 500 shekels of tzedakah. Okay, now he was focused all the time. He was focused before he made tshuva, and he was focused after he made tshuva. Before he made tshuva, in like 10, 12, 13 years, he made 11 full-length movies. And when he made tshuva, there's a newspaper woman said that she went with him and her husband to Los Angeles, some kind of, I'm not sure what it was, and they hoped to speak to him on the flight. Israel, Los Angeles, okay? And they say that he would not stop learning all the way. There was no small talk, nothing. And when they got to the airport, he says immediately, okay, let's get to the cab, let's get to the place where we need to do whatever we need to do. And he stood there and he spoke and he made people laugh and cry or whatever it is. Back to the airport, back to the Sfarim, nothing, no small talk all the way there, all the way back. He was focused before, he was focused after. Some people can do that. Some people cannot. But what we need to understand is even if we cannot, and we are who we are, it's important to understand that at that point in time, as we'll meet a little bit later, we're in danger. We're in danger. If we are in fear, if we are depressed, we have to speak to Kodesh Baruch Hu at that point in time, because the general, wants to captivate us, wants to catch us. And they say, she wouldn't listen to any entreaties. They try to woo her, and whatever it is, she was extremely God-fearing. She would not give up. The poor man, the pauper, wept very much, beating his head against the wall. Finally, as we said, the person realizes he lost his emunah. The tzaddik comes to him, says, why are you weeping so? He said, why shouldn't I weep? He said, what do I have left? Some people have wealth, or children have nothing at all. My wife is also taken from me, so what do I have left? Now the Burgher's heart was deeply touched, and he had great pity on the pauper, seeing his bitterness, his great sorrow. This is the tzaddik. When the tzaddik sees us and he realizes who this pauper is, as we'll see later on, this pauper takes everything away from the burgher. This from the merchant. He will take whatever, he will steal everything that belongs to him. But still, he has tremendous rachmanos on him. And we'll see that's the way he is, that's the way his son is. Bezat Hashem. The Burgher's heart was deeply touched, and he had a great pity on the pauper. And he says like this, and then the Burgher did something reckless. And it was really utter madness. He went and made inquiry as to where the general lived and traveled there. And he did something highly reckless. He went right to the general's house. And the general had guards there. But the Burgher, because he was in such an altered state, was oblivious to everything. He paid no attention to the guards whatsoever. Now, the guards were also very shocked, and they became very confused since they saw a person approaching them in such a wild manner. And they were very shocked. How did he get there? And because of their panic, the guard did not challenge him. And he was able to pass through all the guards until he got to the general's quarters, to the place where the pauper's wife was lying. He went over to her and he woke her up. Come, he said to her. When she saw him, she was confused and she was frightened. He says, come with me immediately, he told her. She went with him, and again they passed all the guards until they were outside. Only then did he come around and realize that what he had done, such a reckless thing. And they realized there's going to be a great outcry. And so it was a great outcry from the general's men. There are two things that we need to learn over here. First of all, the one thing that keeps the woman safe in the general's house, which means the one thing that keeps us safe, even if we are in the clutches of the Yetzer Hara, is the fact that we're crying that we don't want it. It is an unbelievable koyach of crying bevada. If you can cry, it's a nuclear weapon. But even if you can't bring yourself to cry, you tell HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ribono Shel Olam, I am steeped in things that I really want not to do. I really want not to want them, but I crave them. And I can't stop craving them. Get up and protest. I don't want it. I don't care how much I crave it. I don't care how many times I tried to get out of it and it didn't catch. And this is something that's the only way that anybody Especially somebody who is entrapped in addictions of any sort, can ever hope to get out of it, and start and recover. And that is not to give up when they fail. Anybody who is familiar with people who are alcoholics or addicts or of any kind knows that their journey is littered with ups and downs and pitfalls and whatever it is. But those that make it are those that get up again. So you start, you fail. Okay, so you fail, it's not the end of the world, you start again. The thing that counts is not how many times you failed, but how many times you started again. And starting again means I refuse to give up. I refuse to give up no matter how pathetic I am or was or is or consider or whatever. It doesn't make any difference. I don't want it. This is secret number one. Secret number two is that which, or the tzaddik over here, the Burgher, the way he goes, he did something wild. Comes the question, why didn't her husband do that? Why does his neighbor, who knows that the Burgher will take anything that belongs to him, goes and self-sacrifices himself? It does something which is utter madness and brings her out. The answer is that the only difference between a person who is a success and the person who is not succeeding is the person that is succeeding wants it more, a lot more, all the time, nonstop. One of the things that we need to do, I mean, we catch ourselves many times seeing like, what am I thinking? I live life right now. And I look at people left and right, that leave this world, and everybody does. And somehow, some way, I keep the illusion that I know it's nagia to me, but somehow I manage to suspend my belief, to sort of like cultivate the will not to believe, so I can keep entertaining myself and not really taking it seriously. I would even say that the poor person did not go to save his wife because he was poor. Meaning, the reason why a person is poor, I'm not saying, obviously, the Chofetz Chaim said, Kadosh Baruch Hu wants to make a person poor, he makes him lazy. The reason why a person is poor is because in reality, he wants to be poor. Because poverty and victimhood serves him. In fact, speaking about Uri Zohar, I actually had a conversation with him. Quite a few conversations. We spoke about, various things that I was, going through. And he says, do you realize that those character defects are serving you? And I said, Of course, I know they're serving me. But the fact that they're not serving, it doesn't help me get out of it. So he asked me, are you davening for it? And I mean really davening for it, for that subject. I said, yeah, half an hour every day I daven for this thing. So he said, you're going to get out of it. I know for sure you're going to get out of it. A poor person remains a poor person because remaining poor serves him. It justifies the way that he looks at himself. The merchant, the tzaddik realizes that there are certain cases where you have to break the mold and do something wild to counter that something wild that the general did. Well, it took somebody else's wife. The tzaddik goes into the world of the Sitra Achra. He finds out what the general means, what his country is. He knows which madrega of Tuma, that person, we are captured and being taken down to. And he goes down there, it has nothing to do with the tzaddik. He goes down there, wakes us up and say, come with me, let's go. In order for us to wake up from where we are, right, each and every one of us, right now, is we need to do something wild. And after you do something wild, starts a brouhaha. Starts a whole shenanigan. People started looking for you, as we will see, later on. We need to prepare ourselves to do something wild. We have to trust the koyach of the tzaddik. We have to call HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ribono Shel Olam. I'm begging you, let me break the mold and start something brand new, something wild, something reckless in Yiddishkeit. To start something brand new. That's what Rabbeinu says. Stop being poor. Go back to your treasures. And Rabbeinu is telling us two things. A, we are poor because we want to be poor, because otherwise what does it mean stop being poor? And the second thing is you can stop being poor. You can come back to your treasures. You have to lean on the tzaddik. You have to lean on this koyach. And you have to realize that we have to start asking Kodesh Baruch Hu to do something wild. I'm already, I have my this, and I have my position, and I have my this, and I'm no longer a young man, and maybe I am a young man, or whatever it is that I am. But if I have an envelope of comfort. We have to start getting ready because we are poor. We have to start getting ready to get out of our envelope of comfort. And it is possible. The koyach of the tzaddik, as we will see, this is possible. And this is what we need to do, because otherwise we'll just continuing. That's the only thing that's going to happen. Nothing's going to change. Baruch Hashem, we'll daven, we'll learn, we'll do whatever we'll do, but basically we'll remain on a plateau. Hopefully we don't fall down. Also a great thing. But Rabbeinu wants more for us. He wants more from us. Get ready to do something wild. A new beginning. For each person, it's different. For one person saying, something, I'm going to devote 1 hour to davening Shachris. I don't, if I care, I come before the minyan, I finish after the minyan, I do this, I don't care. I am taking myself 1 hour for Shachris, or an hour for Shmoneh Esrei. Much wilder can you get? An hour for Shmoneh Esrei? When you get into Shmoneh Esrei, and you think about what you're saying, in every bracha you can add me'ena bracha, it's very easy to daven Shmoneh Esrei for an hour. You know what I'm saying? Half an hour. Another person wants to wake up Chatzos. Another person wants to start Daf Yomi. Now this person is just to wake up in the morning to go to shul. It doesn't matter. Whatever you are, get ready to do something, quote unquote, reckless. Because the general, which is the Samach Mem, which is Yetzer Hara, is reckless against you all the time. He captures your wife, he captures your emunah, he captures your, and takes it to his palace and puts you to sleep. So what you can do, bang your hand against the wall, I lost my emunah, I lost my this, I lost my that. What can you do? Get ready to do something special. Even to talk about it. It's gewaldig. To want it, Rabbeinu says the Ritzonos. I want to do something special. I want to start again. I know that I'm not one of those of Oivdei Hashem. I know that. But who says I have to stay that way? Who says I have to stay that way? No, I have the direction, and I have a career, I have this. So what? You can be a tzaddik also. There's a person called of Chaim Cohen from Yerushalayim. He has a soup kitchen. The guy is a total tzaddik. A total tzaddik. I don't know if he has one or two or whatever it is, but a total tzaddik. He goes to Chutzlatz, he collects money, whatever it is. But the guy is a tzaddik. He's a posh tzaddik. He's a Oivdei Hashem. This is the first thing. We can and we should be. The clock is ticking. Hashem should help us with that. Hashem. We should all lean on Koyach of Rabbeinu and start thinking out of the box, breaking the mold, doing something reckless to make a new beginning. Hashem should help us with Hashem to be able to do this. And Bezat Hashem, we will be Zeicher, Geula Shlem, V'Korav Mamish, V'Yom Shech Tzidkeinu, Binyan Beis HaMikdash, all the good stuff. Should all Bezat Hashem have Hatzlacha B'Kol Einyonim. Yitzhak Hashem, Wednesday is L'Kut HaMaran, Yitzhak Hashem.